Okay, in this video we're going to talk about making healthy decisions. We're going to take a look at a number of different terms that relate to making healthy decisions and the content for the unit. The first thing we're going to take a look at is the illness-wellness continuum. This is a model that illustrates a full range of health between illness and wellness, and this is kind of a helpful tool to kind of look at your behavior, or if you're studying the topic in general, to look at behaviors in general, and to kind of determine are the choices that people are making, are they placing them closer to a high level of wellness or unhealthiness, which can lead to premature death. Premature death is anything that is caused by something that would lead to an early death. For example, smoking. I know we talked about this yesterday. People can contract diseases from it, and they can end their life earlier than it should have. Values, understanding values. The reason why values are important is because they're going to define the choices that you make, and they're going to define the direction you go in with your life in a lot of ways. These are standards and beliefs that are most important to a person. And when something is most important to you, you tend to use it as your decision-making tool. So for example, if a value is achieving high grades in school, you're going to spend more time studying, and this will likely lead to better opportunities in college, which will likely lead to better paying jobs and things of that nature. However, if you have unhealthy things that you value, it's more likely that this might lead to more self-destructive behavior, things of that nature. So it's important to understand what your values are and why they are what they are. Just an overall general definition of health, and I really could have started with this particular slide, but it's a well-being of a person's body, mind, and relationship with others. This particular graphic here is Spirit. The YMCA, I think, uses that, but generally it's just being overall healthy. Body being physically in shape, your mind having mental wellness, and your relationships with others in terms of how that is that a positive thing, or do you have healthy relationships or unhealthy relationships. Being mindful of this can really help you kind of define these different elements of your life and help you get on a path to having good health. All right, a risk factor is any condition that increases the likelihood of injury, disease, or other negative outcomes. So risk factors, real straightforward. Use of tobacco. Again, we talked about this yesterday. Underage consumption of alcohol. Making poor choices that are not based in good judgment. Really, anything like that is really a risk factor. There are some risk factors you can't control. When you talk about lifelong health, some of that has to do with genetics. Are you more or less prone to contracting a disease when you're older? But even knowing these things, knowing your family background, history, can help you take preventative measures. So risk factors are very important to be aware of, and again, another useful tool in looking at your life and kind of determining, are the choices you're making healthy or not. Another thing to be aware of is the culture in which you're operating. Culture is a neat word. It really can refer to a lot of different things. It's beliefs, patterns of behavior that are shared by a group of people. I got just a picture here, kind of a all catch-all type definition, infographic, I guess, of culture. But culture can be applied to a school's culture. What's the culture of the high school like? What's the culture of your family like? What's the culture if you're on a team or band or something like that? What's that culture like? A lot of times culture has a lot to do with determining overall health. Does your family value eating healthy food, or do they like to eat out a lot? Are there a lot of is there a lot of healthy communication going on between you and your friends, or is it a negative type of communication? This is all culture, and it kind of builds upon itself, and it's really important because it kind of can guide the way that you and your peers and whatever it is that you're interacting with make decisions and behave. So it's very important to be aware of culture and how that's influencing your choices. Okay, here's an interesting term: self-actualization, the process by which people achieve their full potential. And I'm going to use an example here to explain this. Let's say you have two people, and they both want to run the 100-meter dash. One of them just is really gifted with a lot of speed. Another person, not so much, but they're really going to work hard. Self-actualization doesn't mean that they run the same speed. Self-actualization means that they run the fastest that they are able to run. So if we take that and we kind of apply it to life and apply it to school and apply it to different parts of your day and of your life, not everybody needs to be the president to achieve self-actualization. But the goal should be to, I guess, for lack of a better word, be the best you. If you're studying the amount of time you're supposed to, each day, if you're exercising, if you're aware of your communication with others and back and forth and making sure that's healthy, you're kind of being the best you, I guess. And that self-actualization, as opposed to not using that time wisely, engaging in risky behavior and increasing those risk factors. That kind of keeps you from achieving self-actualization. Okay, heredity. You've probably heard this before. It's all traits that are passed on biologically from a parent to a child. Now, we talked about this a little bit before. You cannot always, you can't control basically what you inherit genetically from your parents. If your family has a history of a certain type of cancer, then that's something you have to be aware of, and you have to, if there's preventative measures that you can take to minimize that risk, then that's something that's important to do. So when you're talking about heredity and health, it's just important to be aware of what it is that's being passed on from your parents to you, and how that's going to impact your health going forward. All right, defense mechanisms. A defense mechanism is commonly referred to as a negative thing, and we're going to do an activity with this. But it's basically a situation occurs, and instead of dealing with it in a mature and in a healthy way, you make a choice to deal with it in an unhealthy way. And defense mechanisms can be a lot of different things. It can kind of be denial. For example, if let's say you had started smoking and you're rationalizing it in your head, I only smoke once a day or whatever it might be, you're kind of in denial about the fact that you're going down a path that's going to increase the likelihood of you getting sick in some way when you get older. Another defense mechanism is to blame other people for your problems. Now, there may be times where another person does have an influence on your situation in a negative way, but when I say blaming other people, I'm talking about for everything, just not taking responsibility for your own actions. So we're going to take a look more in depth at defense mechanisms during class. Okay, on a positive side, coping strategies are ways in which you can deal with an uncomfortable or unbearable situation. If you've just got a lot of schoolwork to do and it's really stressing you out, there are a couple different things you can do. A negative thing might be to just not do the work, or it might be to engage in risky behavior as a way of dealing with stress. However, a coping strategy on a positive side would be something that would just be a healthy way of dealing with it. For example, if you do have a lot of work, making sure you get a certain amount of exercise time or a certain amount of time away from the work so that you can kind of mentally reset, blow off steam and stress from that. If we're talking about relationships that are challenging, dealing with it in a healthy way, communicating with the person, using some of the techniques we talked about, so that there's a positive outcome to the situation. There are good ways and bad ways to cope with stress or challenging situations. And it's important to make sure that you're using positive coping strategies. We're also going to talk about some of these in class as well. Okay, an optimist. An optimist is a person who focuses on the positive side of things. You might have heard, are you a glass half full or glass half empty person? A glass half full person focuses on the positive thing in what you do have. That's a very optimistic viewpoint. A negative person might focus on the glass being half empty and what you don't have. Being an optimist is important because it helps you to find solutions to problems as opposed to seeing the problem and being defeated by it. Always looking for a solution in a problem, always trying to find the best possible perspective is an important thing to do. Now, having said that, there are situations that are just bad. They're just and there really isn't anything you can do about it. But generally speaking, if you take an optimistic approach toward challenges in your life, they usually turn out better. Win-win. This is another great term. Willingness for each person to give something in order to reach an agreement. Another way to think of this is compromise, right? You might want something, another person might want something. Maybe you want to go do something, and one person wants to go do one thing, and you want to go do another thing. And you either find a way to do both things, or you find a way to do something that you both like. Either way, you both are getting what it is you're pursuing, but not at the expense of the other person. It's a win-win. Both people are able to get something out of the situation. All right, personality. Unique combination of traits that make each person individual. Certainly, it's important to be aware of your personality, be aware of traits that are healthy, traits that might be unhealthy, and to shape that in such a way where you're going to be a positive person, a person who uses those coping strategies we talked about, looks at things in an optimistic way, finds solutions to things, because it really is a healthy way to go forward. Right, at times, and in some cases, for various reasons, people need to seek help from a professional. One of those professionals is a psychologist. Psychologists study how people think, feel, and behave. It's an actual applied science. A psychologist is applying a science, and the goal of which is to understand behaviors, understand how to deal with behaviors in a positive way. The difference between a psychologist, as a side note, and a psychiatrist is that a psychiatrist does what a psychologist does in general, but they can also prescribe medicine. All right, and I think the term that's important to bring out here is quality of life, the degree of overall satisfaction a person gets from their life. When you're talking about the choices you make, when you're talking about the goals that you might have, that's really what you're doing, is you're trying to pursue a high quality of life. Now, having said that, there's going to be challenges in life. There's going to be times where that's not optimized or self-actualized, if you will. But quality of life is kind of just something people pursue. It's possible. And this dog in this picture is just having great quality of life.